We are now less than 3 weeks from week 0. Less than 4 weeks from Clemson and Georgia in Atlanta on the 31st. You have Florida State kicking off in week 0. You have Georgia playing us with the mindset to potentially win a 3rd national championship in 4 years. Ohio State is hoping not only that they can beat Michigan, but that they can actually make the run to the national championship and win it. Tennessee is right up the road from us Clemson fans. If you're in the upstate of South Carolina, you're 3 hours or so from Knoxville. It's less than a day drive. They have a lot of high hopes. And then Michigan. Yes, Michigan. Are they in trouble? Well, I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. I'm Brian. This is a Sunday. This is a Sunday, August the 4th. It's a little different for me. I have been doing some work around the house over the past few days. My wife was like, hey, there's some things I'd like to get done. And I was like, sure, I agree with you. I want to get some of these things done too. And for a few reasons. First, I want to live in a home that looks nice. Second, I want to have all of these honey-do list requests and things we want to get done before the football season actually kicks off. So if you know, you know. I would tell you this before I dive into these subjects I've been talking about. I hope that you'll subscribe. Remember, it is free. It is flipping free, right? So if you're sitting there, you're like, hey, I ain't got any money. You don't have to have any money because it is free. So we're coming up on 2 years. In fact, I started this channel on August the 31st. So when Clemson and Georgia plays, it will be my 2-year anniversary, birthday, whatever you want to call it, for the channel. And so, hey, help me to get 4,000. I'm almost 4,000. I'm almost at 4,000 subscribers. It's happened really quick. I do appreciate it. Remember, subscribing is free. Let's dive right in. So yesterday I talked about Clemson. Clemson's fall camp kicked off this week. Everybody's oohing and ahhing over TJ Moore. And it's kind of interesting to me that very few people are talking about Sammy Brown. And, you know, one of the reasons they're not talking about Sammy Brown is because they're not worried about the defense. They're not worried about Sammy Brown. From what I have read and from what I've heard, and I believe it, he is the highest rated linebacker we've ever signed in the history of Clemson. And nobody is talking about him compared to TJ Moore. I'm not saying nobody's talking about him. If you understand what I'm really meaning is nobody's just obsessed with him. They're obsessed more with TJ Moore, and we know why. Yes, he's an incredible athlete. Glad that he and Bryant Wesco are here, but we have a massive problem on the offensive side of the ball. And when we've seen deficiencies out of the defense, the vast majority of the time is because the offense has failed the defense, and the defense has went out onto the field, and because they're human beings, I don't care if they work out all the time. I don't care if they have world-class nutrition. They're human beings. They're going to get tired. And they're probably in their heads looking across at their offense and look at their offensive coaches going, are we the only ones who has skin in the game in this one? But nobody's talking about Sammy Brown like they should. I'm guilty of this because I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about our defense. I believe I believe, I just read somebody's comment, and I'm like Ron Burgundy. Put it on the teleprompter, I'll read it. Now, I'm going to get to those comments in just a second. But the problem is that when you look at Sammy Brown, you're not thinking about him because you're not worried about him. You're not worried about the defensive unit. And that's great. That is great. It's just, isn't it kind of sad that we're not talking a little more about the highest rated linebacker we've ever signed? Again, it goes back to the offense and the lack of production over the past few years. Hey, we averaged over 400 yards, blah, blah, blah. How many touchdowns you get off that? Waiting. Yes, yardage is a great indication of offensive production. It is. But just like in the Duke game, when you rush for over 200 and pass for over 200, and how many points did you score? That is one of the things that we're dealing with. And that's one of the reasons that Sammy Brown is not being talked about as much as Tyler. Good grief. I just need to call it a weekend. I've been working too much. TJ Moore. Good grief. Let's talk about Florida State for a second. You're like, I don't care about Florida State. This is Clemson Football Live. I can't believe it. Well, here's the reason we're going to talk about it is because Florida State and Georgia Tech, they actually play in less than 3 weeks in Dublin, Ireland, 12 o'clock on ESPN. Florida State and Georgia Tech, 12 o'clock. Now, I misspoke the other day and said Notre Dame because Notre Dame's been playing in Dublin, Ireland every now and again. So last year they played in Dublin, Ireland. And then in 2020, they were supposed to play in Dublin, Ireland. Of course, everything that went on kept that from happening. In 2012, they played in Dublin, Ireland. And then they played, the early 2000s, the late 90s, somewhere in there. But this is Florida State and Georgia Tech. And folks, listen to me. Florida State and Clemson are the two leading potential candidates to be the ACC champion. And if you talk to anyone who's outside of the ACC, who's outside of these two fan bases, they're going to tell you that Clemson and Florida State are the leading contenders for the ACC championship. And they wouldn't be wrong in theory. I think this year NC State, especially if you're sitting there going, hey, what do you think NC State's going to get to the ACC championship? You obviously haven't seen their schedule. You haven't. They play Tennessee, then they play Clemson, and then after that, NC State. And I had the guys from Locked On Wolfpack here. One of them's a former NC State Wolfpack player. These guys love their Wolfpack. They were great guests. I was glad to have them on. Hope to have them on again. But they even said that if they win less than 10 games, it's basically a failure. You need to go look at NC State's schedule. They're definitely a contender for the ACC championship. But Georgia Tech, a lot of people forgot that Georgia Tech did a lot better last year than what most, including myself, would have predicted. And so they're starting off in week 0. Now, on week 0, you have 3 other games going on, Montana State and New Mexico. I know that's not a big-time game, but considering we have not had college football since college football ended, I'll probably turn over there and check it out just for a second. New ACC member SMU plays at Nevada, 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. And then Delaware State at Hawaii at 11:59 Eastern Time. That's funny. Spectrum pay-per-view. That's what is listed on FBSschedules.com. That's really, really funny. And then, of course, week 1 is in less than 4 weeks now, which is crazy. It just seems like time is flying, and it should be. Before I go any farther, I just want to say hello to everyone here. If you have not subscribed to the channel, I hope that you have subscribed. Why? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. First off, I think if you're watching all the time, you should do the easiest. This is the easiest way to support the channel without dropping a dime. It's subscribing. It's free. And the next, if you do want to support the channel on a monthly basis, I'm going to call out someone I just see in here. Big John. Happy Sunday, Brian. Happy Sunday to you. I saw your comment on my video yesterday where I had almost an hour-long video. I don't blame you for not watching that. My dad and my father-in-law tell me, hey, man, we watch. When you get to those longer videos, we're not going to watch all of that. And I'm like, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. But Big John here, Big John, you see that symbol beside his name? He has been a supporter of this channel for a very long time. He's been a supporter of the Bobby Durkin's channel Bobby might be coming back. I don't know. It's whether I'm in the mood. But I'm going to need y'all to watch. Get the algorithm back in. I'm sorry, that's just how it works. But Big John has been supporting the channel, and he does it on a monthly basis, $3 or $5 per month. So, folks, inflation is terrible. Expense is terrible. I would never, ever ask you to do something that, that you don't feel comfortable with. But I have made it really affordable, $3 or $5 per month. I appreciate it. Big John has been supporting the channel. Good to see you, my friend. Still Gamble is a member of the channel. See him in here. Look at that. Look at that. We only lost 2 stars talking to Carolina Jackpot. Carolina Jackpot's been in here. I'm going to get to you in just a second, my friend. Yes, but still Gamble, thanks for supporting the channel. Who else is in here? All right, bunch of you. I'm just going to fly through here. Joey Cogdell, hope all is good with you. Enjoyed your take on the Tigers' upcoming season. Keep it up and go Tigers. It's good to see you, Joey Cogdell. Chase Thompson, I'm worried about Randall. These videos of him trying to catch, but shows no effort and gets picked every time. Moore will jump him after the Georgia game. I'm really worried about Adam Randall. I mean, this is guy, was a 5-star coming out of Myrtle Beach. It was either Myrtle Beach or North Myrtle. It doesn't matter. I know if you live in that area, it's like, it definitely matters. Folks, I understand that, but you know what I mean. He's from that area. Had a lot of health problems. I hope for him. I hope for Clemson that he does well. But, folks, for him, I hope he does well. I don't know if y'all notice this. When I criticize coaches. Notice that I try to be careful how I criticize players. Notice that. For some of you who hates my takes, I don't go after players. I really don't. I will critique them, but I'm very careful because even though they look like men, a lot of them are still boys, even if they're 21. So I hope the very best for Adam Randall. I have a kid who's going to be turning 18 in about 2 weeks. So I try to be gentle with these guys because, again, just because they look like men and have beards and can bench press you and your entire family, a lot of them are still kids. So young men, boys, guys, whatever. Good to see you in here. Carolina Jackpot, my old buddy. Love talking trash with you. How can you not be a little concerned about your defense when you lost several starters on the back end? Also gave up 35 points on the worst offense in the SEC and Kentucky. They were not focused. We lost a few players on the team, but we've got a pretty good defense. And in that game, I just don't think they were jacked up. And we did play poorly in that game. You're 100% right, but I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not saying that we're going to be the top defense in the country. It's just overall our defensive staff and then the guys we do have returning versus who we lost and the guys who have who got playing time last year, even if they were not a starter. I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with it. Again, we're going to see some blown coverages by some players this year because there's more youth and new starters. With that said, we've got a lot of talent on the defense. And overall, when it's our defense versus our offense, trust me, the level of concern is easily lopsided. It's good to see Carolina Jackpot. Stupefied. Nobody cares about FSU. You're so funny. Turns right around. There's Breeze Fry. Florida State fans love our Clemson brothers. Good to see you, my friend. Just pay your $570 million and get out of it. Love to see you guys just trolling one another. Troy Harper's in here. Who else is in here? And then I'm going to get on back to this. Success is inevitable. Georgia Tech could start off like Duke last year. Wouldn't be surprised if they beat FSU. I was going to talk about that in just a second. Not giving up 35 points. Yeah, that was a poor performance. I've made fun of Clemson for jumping around on the sidelines like we won the national championship. So Carolina Jackpot, I definitely made fun of my own Tigers for that. That was a poor performance defensively. That's one of our worst performances we've had. But part of that was a kick return. One of them was a kick return, and there was something else that was not completely on the defense. It was giving up points, you're 100% right, but really the defense, if my memory serves me correct, the defense actually gave up 21 points in that game. So 35 of the 35, the defense, if my memory serves me correct, gave up 21. Folks, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being corrected. If you're right, you're right. Got 43 people in here on a Sunday afternoon. I hope you've subscribed, hit the thumbs up. I'm glad you're here. Big John talking some trash. It's good to see y'all. I am going to get right back to it. So, Florida State plays Georgia Tech. All right. Now, if you're a Clemson fan like myself, if you're a college football fan like myself, I mean, you're talking about a guy here that was just raving about the 1995 Nebraska team the other day. I saw a stat that in the 1995 season, Nebraska did not have one holding penalty called on its offensive line, and they ran the option, if you remember correctly. That's incredible. I think Nebraska 95 was probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest team to ever play. Now, Miami fans are going to say 0-1, and I don't blame you. That 0-1 roster was outrageous. But if you're a fan of college football like me, and you've been pulling for Clemson for all these years, and maybe you have an ACC school that's your favorite that's not Clemson, you had to play against Georgia Tech. And we remember those years in the late 90s and into the 2000s, and even, that you had George O'Leary when he had Joe Hamilton, and, of course, George Godsey. Remember the touchdown pass in the back of the end zone to T.J. Watkins. You move on in, of course, Calvin Johnson playing for them. Moving on into the Paul Johnson years of coaching. You had to put up with Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech has not been a problem for some time now. You had Jeff Collins being fired, and a lot of people made fun of Jeff Collins. I don't know the guy. I know very little about the guy. But for him to take over a team that every player that had been pretty much recruited into that team was recruited to run an offense that most high schools are not running. Most colleges, unless they're a military institute, is not running. By the way, I'm not knocking off, option football. I'm not. But Paul Johnson was smart into converting his team into an offense, especially to where it would be very hard to fire him because, well, most people's not running that style of offense. So if you get rid of him, you've got a mess on your hands. And that's exactly what Georgia Tech had. And Jeff Collins came in, got fired. People talked about him bad and everything. I don't know whether he deserves some of that or not. All I know is that cat he had a mess on his hands. And then he gets fired, and then Brent Key is hired as the interim head coach. And then last year, he had his first entire season. Now, they went 7-6 last year, but they were 5-3 in the ACC. And I'm looking at this, and I got to pull this up. I got to pull this up to ensure that this is correct. Before I read this off to you, I'm not going to make an idiot of myself here. All right? I'm not going to make an idiot of myself here. And by the way, everyone, I'm not looking at the comment section right now. So if anybody's sending me comments, I'm not looking at them right now. I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to pull this up. Georgia Tech football 2023 record or schedule, because I just saw something. I want to ensure it before I read it, make an idiot of myself. I want to ensure that I saw it, that I actually saw the proper score. Okay, I did see the proper score. Now, Phil Steele's book, Phil Steele is on top of things, but every now and again, because they have so much information they're pumping out, they're going to get something wrong. In fact, I think Capehart, they had him undersized greatly. I read out his size, and someone lost their mind like I told them their baby was ugly or something. I didn't tell you your baby's ugly. All babies, when they're born, most of them look like Dwight Eisenhower, okay? So that's nothing new. But with that said, I wanted to look this up. Do you realize that Georgia Tech lost to Georgia this year? The same Georgia team that beat Florida State by 60 points only beat Georgia Tech by 8. Now, I am of the mindset of Vince Lombardi. Show me a good loser, and you've shown me a loser. Okay? I'm an extremely competitive guy. I have lost my fair share and more in life just in general. And yes, it can build some character, but at the same time, if you can get used to losing, that's went beyond character. Now you're a loser. And I believe what Vince Lombardi said, okay? With that said, Georgia Tech losing to Georgia by 8 points? Considering everything the Yellow Jackets have been through. And there's no love lost for the Yellow Jackets for me. They've messed up a lot for Clemson over the years. It's been a while, but over the years. Still haven't forgiven them for, I think, 1999 or year 2000. But with that said, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets could actually be more of a problem than what we realize. Now, folks, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, all 51 of you in here, I'm not telling you that Georgia Tech is going to beat Florida State. I did not say that. But what I did say, or what I am saying, is that I see that Georgia Tech returns 8 offensive players, including their starting quarterback. And I think if you look at their schedule, and I'm going to give you their results. Of course, Phil Steele's book lays this out. In 2019, they were 3-9. In 2020, they were 3-7. In 2021, they were 3-9. In 22, they were 5-7. I want to say mid-seasons when they fired Jeff Collins. Brent Key was the interim, but he took over full time last year. He was 7-6. He was 7-6. And he lost a close game to Louisville. He lost to Bowling Green, which made absolutely no sense. But he did beat North Carolina. He played very close with Georgia. And so I'm just saying this year, if you look at their schedule, you look at their roster, they start off with Florida State, but after that, they play Georgia State, which is like 2 miles down the road from them, if that mile. They're at Syracuse. Who knows about Syracuse? They play VMI. Then they're at Louisville. Then they're off. They play Duke. They're at North Carolina. They play Notre Dame. They play Virginia Tech. They play Miami. They play NC State. And then they have Georgia. That is not an easy schedule, but I'm telling you, they might catch Georgia Tech might catch Florida State a little off guard here. Listen to me. If you're a Florida State fan, you're like, hey, Clemson idiot just said Georgia Tech's going to beat us. I did not say that. I said Georgia Tech is an underwhelming team. They're 7-6, but they are 5-3 in conference. This is Brent Key's second full year as the head coach. Because his first season, he was, an interim. God help him there. But I'm just telling you, you've got to take them serious. These guys might go sub 500 this year. I don't know. But I think that they have a really good chance of wreaking some havoc. Everybody's talking some good trash with my old buddy, Carolina Jackpot. Going through here, I'm going to go through these really, really quick. Brees Fries, season starts soon. Do many questions will be answered. Love, love, love college football. I'm with you, my friend. M. Brand BB, give us a Bobby Durkin's impression. You had 2 prayer hands up. So anyone who's watching this and you don't know Bobby Durkins is a redneck character that I came up with back in 2016. And a lot of people, in fact, I still have more subscribers on that channel, though I've barely done a video in a long time. In fact, I ran into someone out of nowhere yesterday who said, tell Bob, I was buying some paint from a local Sherwin-Williams, and the guy never said a word. He was very nice, very helpful, did great. And as I'm walking off, he hands me my receipt. As I'm walking off, he goes, and tell Bobby I said, hey, it didn't click with me. And he was talking about Bobby Durkin. So if you're watching, dude, that was, you caught me off guard. That was awesome. But Bobby Durkins is just a redneck personality that I made up. And there's still a lot of people who believes he's real. Even ESPN hired a marketing company to put together their 2020 opening video for that 2020 season. You remember there was a lot of change that went on that year, that, barely any fans in the stands and all this bunch of stuff. They actually bought one of my clips from Bobby Durkins. So Bobby didn't do too bad for himself. I just haven't done the whole Bobby Durkins in a while. But because you're asking, I will do my very best to do Bobby Durkins right now. I have my standard hat on, so it's not the old redneck hat. But since you ask kindly, I will get that wild eye look, and I will channel my inner redneck. And because you ask kindly, I'll do it right now. For the rest of you who are going to be confused, I just hope you'll subscribe and you can come back. So here we go there. Hey there, Boog, how you doing? Bobby Durkins here. Let me tell you right now, as sure as a sweaty rectum is crusty and stinks, Clemson stands the chance to win the national championship this year. I don't care what Phil Metalpost wrote about him. I don't care what the Athletics Foot has said. I don't care if the ACC is holding children hostage. And Clemson as well. Clemson winning the national championship. Take it to the bank. Take it to the bank. As soon as my grandma is dead, we are winning the national championship. Go Tigers. You keep showing up, I'll keep showing out. Bobby Durkins. Yes. Go to iTunes and look up Peck Your Dookie Chicken. That's still on there, by the way. Good to see you. I hope, Mr. Brand BB, that you enjoyed that. Let's go on down here. Big John. Brian's August NIL money don't go into the portal. Dabo will let Georgia get you. Dude, you didn't have to support it. You already support the channel. Thank you for that. Thank you. That is a great joke. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Hey, listen, I can always transfer back in as a grad assistant. Don't forget about that. I think that some of these guys who maybe want to come to Clemson should, but Clemson hasn't offered them. They should play that card. We want to be a grad assistant. All of a sudden, hook, line, and sinker. They've got Dabo. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. I really do appreciate it. That's very kind of you. Going on down. A bunch of people still, homecoming loss in 1989 still stings for me. Good to see you. Let's see. Going on down here. Jack Snow, good to see you in here. I will admit, Knowles have a tendency to play down to lesser teams' level. A lot of teams will do that because it's easier to look ahead. And that's one of the warnings that Jack Snow, I'll tell you this, one of the warnings I have for Clemson. In Clemson's first 5 games, they play Georgia first, they play Appalachian State, then they play NC State. And I can't remember when the bye is. It's before the NC State game is the bye. Then they play Stanford, and then they play Florida State. Okay? Stanford is terrible. Or coming to Death Valley. Appalachian State. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, we know what they did in 2007. Totally different team. I get that and everything. I've seen Appalachian State. I was actually at Appalachian State last year watching them play Coastal Carolina. Great atmosphere. You need to go up there. You're like, I ain't a fan of them. Go up there. It's a great environment, really good fan base, and good football team. Clemson needs to watch out for Appalachian State because you have Georgia and you have NC State and you got Appalachian State in between them. It's easy to overlook it and get upset. I'm not saying that Appalachian State's going to beat Clemson. I'm just saying I agree with you. It's easy to do that. So There we go. Go on down. Go on down. Bobby Durkins for the win. Yes, absolutely. Cody wanted to know when Bobby got here. Let me tell you this. Bobby is always here. Even when you least expect it. You know, I was walking out in through the woods the other day and saw two bears fighting over a bear cub. I mean, I could just do this stuff all day. Sometimes I will be walking through the mall, and see some weird scenario and go, Bobby it would do really great explaining what we just saw. Bobby D, Santa, East Runner, and the Tooth Fairy will watch the Georgia game together. Yes, they will be plowing that. A ton of Clemson fans out there just like Bobby. Hey, Carolina Jackpot, the game, have you met some of them Gamecock fans? Have you met some of them? We both got them, my friend. Loved it. I'm glad you're here. Cody loves the videos and insane reactions. He's incredible. Carolina Jackpot is a lot of fun. I'm glad he's here. So let's talk about we've talked about Clemson, Florida State, Georgia. I passively talked about Georgia. We really don't have to talk about them too much. Folks, they're the front runner for the national championship. Everybody's talking about them. Everybody's talking about what happened last year. I don't like Georgia. I'm not a Georgia fan. I have a lot of Georgia fans who watch my channel. Even before this season, a lot of Georgia fans watch my channel. Tons of you. We have fun and so on. But I'm not a Georgia fan whatsoever. I grew up not too far from Georgia. I grew up in South Carolina, but it's not too far to Athens, Georgia. Definitely not too far to the Georgia line. And Georgia has wasted talent for many, many years. And Georgia fans will tell you that. During those Mark Richt years, they definitely wasted it. Kirby, on the other hand, he's actually turned it into championships. He has. Love him or hate him, like him or not. Want to talk about how many players gets pulled over by, Clark County down there? You can go ahead and do it. You can do that all day long. You can talk about the graduation rate that it ain't this, that, and the other. I do wonder how much of that deals with a lot of those players end up in the NFL. I don't know. But Georgia is Georgia. They're the front runner for the national championship. Ohio State, on the other hand, Ohio State is trying to get past Michigan. And Michigan had some news come out today that transparently I haven't just sat down and just read over and over. But there's supposedly, there's a bunch of articles right now that their head coach could face, 11 Warriors. Now, this is Ohio State. This would be rich. The new Michigan football coach is one of 7 members from the 2023 Wolverines program accused of violating NCAA rules. You can be accused all you want to. It has to be proven. It's just, this is just a lot of it. It's just a lot of crazy stuff. Sharon Moore could face suspensions as signal stealing scandal looms, reports say. Who knows? Who absolutely knows? But you literally have one team who just won the national championship, and talk about the media shoving Michigan down our throat for many years. Many, many years. Now, Penn State is a team that gets shoved down our throat every year. Michigan finally came off that list and won a national championship. Texas finally got to the college football playoff. They've actually finally looked like a really good football team instead of being, leaning on history so heavy and, all these publications preseasons telling us how great they are, and they get 6 weeks in and, They're just another football team. Shell of history, look the same, have the same fight song, play in the same stadium as when they won their championships and were good, but they're not that team anymore. Miami is currently there. And Miami fans, that's not a shot at you. Unfortunately, that is the truth. That's the truth. Penn State cannot. They might be able to go play in a Rose Bowl and win it, but that's every now and again. But at the end of the day, Penn State is now the new Michigan. Michigan finally won a championship. But now you have, Harbaugh is gone. He's gone. And with that said, you've got this mess at Michigan. Do you see Ohio State? And I need to get my buddy Eric Boggs over here to talk about this. Do you see Ohio State finally beating Michigan? And for some of you are like, I really don't care. I'm just here for Clemson. Yeah, that's great. That's fine and stuff. I'm talking about college football in general today. Because if there's any time for Ryan Day to get Michigan off of his back, it's this season. He does have the talent. There's questions with their offensive line. But other than that, they've got a loaded quarterback room. They have loaded wide receivers, loaded running back. They got loaded everything. And the question is, can Ohio State, in the midst of the change with Michigan, the scrutiny of the investigation into Michigan, can they finally move past this? Can they legitimately contend with Georgia for a national championship? Because Georgia is the front runner for the national championship. And if you look at any publication, and then step back and look at the teams that are outside of those two teams, Georgia and Ohio State are the two front runners for the national championship, with Georgia being the leader. But what is so interesting to me, if you talk to Ohio State fans, the only thing that they really talk about is that Michigan game. And we know why, because it has hurt them. It has hurt them. I want to talk about Tennessee for a second. Tennessee Volunteers. And I reached out to John Chapman up at Sports Talk J, and he actually responded to me. I haven't got back to him. I've had a busy work schedule. And you're like, well, hold on, you're doing a video now. It's easy for me to hop on at the last second and do a video than it is to schedule someone to be on, get ready for it, get the questions prepped, because I always like to give them a roundabout idea of what I'm going to ask them. Don't want to catch them off guard. But he said he would come on the channel. I just haven't got back to him. He's brilliant. John Chapman is great at what he does. He's very, very interesting. Really like John. I have some great comments in here. A lot of people's having some fun. Carolina Jackpot stirring the pot as usual. Great job, man. But I want to get him on here to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, the Volunteers, the Volunteers have shown more consistency over the past few years than they have in quite a while. And if you look at Tennessee, you look at their schedule, it's not an easy schedule. It's not the Florida Gators schedule. Florida Gators, I'm telling you, that's maybe the worst schedule I've ever seen ever. But the truth is that Tennessee has shown more consistency than they've shown in quite a while, and it all goes back to Josh Heupel. You might be sitting there going, Josh Heupel, I'm not impressed with him. Why? You don't have to be a Tennessee fan to be impressed with Josh Heupel. I'll tell you, I'm impressed with him. I mean, the guy The guy took over a situation that was less than desirable. I mean, you got all these. You've had all these coaches that's come through there. You've had coaches leaving basically in the middle of the night. You've had coaches who came in there and they had the pedigree and the name to go with, their supposedly how they were going to perform, and it just didn't happen. You had a coach who came in there in 2016, 2015. Tennessee had a ton of talent on it, and they ended up with what? 4 losses? And folks, for him to come in and do what he has done, I really don't know what to say other than great job, guy. I mean, he's a guy who obviously played for Oklahoma years ago. You see him as in that Big 12 offense, and you're like, hey, that sounds all good, but once you come to the SEC, you're going to have to play defense. And folks, I mean, Tennessee, I mean, considering how much time he's been there, he's going into his 4th year. This guy's did a pretty good job. I mean, this guy has done a pretty good job of coming in and playing consistent football. And last year, there was just, I mean, Joe Milton is a freak of an athlete, but his decision-making skills, it's just cost him. But this year, he has Nico, and I'm not going to even go after, even try to pronounce his last name. But Nico is a 5-star out of California. He's going to be a sophomore this year. I don't know if they actually redshirted him last year. I can't remember. I don't think they did. But if you look at Tennessee's offense, a lot of their offensive production is back. Their defense is where they're going to have some struggles there. That's where they're going to have their struggles. But last year they went 9-4. They went 9-4, and the problem was they lost to Florida. If you look at their losses last year, that loss to Florida makes absolutely no sense because Florida wasn't good. Well, they're Gators and they're blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like what Ohio State's encountering with Michigan recently, but then nothing like it because, I mean, Tennessee just has something happens to them when they play Florida. My brother-in-law is a UT grad, and he says it all the time. He's like, dude, we could be, the Patriots back when Tom Brady was winning, and we play Florida, and all of a sudden it's a close game. We have no reason, have no clue why it is, no reason for it to be close. But Tennessee has a lot of talent. They're recruiting well. This Mike Matthews wide receiver that's coming in to play for them. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, they already have some really good players that's on their football team right now. You have Dylan Sampson at running back, Squirrel White at wide receiver, Brew McCoy. Don't they have that Deontay Thornton guy or whatever his name is? Is he still on the team? I think he is. I think he still is on the team. I mean, this is a good football team. They have James Pierce Jr. playing on their defense. Guy can play. You got to have more than him playing on your team. I get that, but they have talent. These guys are creating a scenario for themselves, especially with the changes in not only the SEC, but in college football. They are competitive. And we haven't seen Tennessee be consistent in a while. And consistency is here. That creates more problems for recruiting within the Southeast especially. And, of course, nationally. They play Chattanooga right off the bat. That's a good game just to get under under their feet. They play NC State in Charlotte. So, as I said earlier, NC State basically has two big games. It's it's Tennessee, and then it's Clemson. And then after that, NC State's schedule is quite winnable. I'm not saying that they can't win against Clemson. I'm not saying that they can't win against Tennessee. But Tennessee comes out of that game. They play Kent State. Then they're at Oklahoma. They're off on the 28th. They're at Arkansas. They play Florida, then Bama. They're off on the 26th. They play Kentucky. Kentucky's going to run their mouth, and then Tennessee's still going to beat them. They're going to play Mississippi State. They're at Georgia. Then they play UTEP, and they play Vanderbilt. According to the play of the quarterback, and if the defense can be solid, I mean, this team could definitely see 9 wins with that schedule. Definitely 9 wins. Could see 10. So Tennessee is and you're like, why do you bring that up? Again, if you're a Clemson fan, realize that Tennessee's not too far from you. You're 3.5, 4 hours, according to which direction you're in. Now, where I live, I'm about 3 hours from Knoxville, roughly, give or take a few minutes. If you're in Clemson, it's a little farther than that. But it creates more competition for recruits. And then whether it's regionally in the Southeast or in the tri-state, quad-state area, however you want to put that, all the way into national. And Tennessee, the last time they played Clemson, we know what happened. By the way, they could not stop Phil Maffa from running. Clemson stopped running Phil Maffa. Go watch the game. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to get back here into the comments section. Oh, my God, there's so many comments. Have 60 people in here. Hey, listen, folks, I hope you've subscribed. You're like, hey, why are you talking about subscribing? It's free. All right? I'm very close to 4,000 subscribers on this channel. I hadn't even had my 2-year anniversary. So I hope you'll subscribe. Also, if you want to support the channel on a monthly basis, there's a join button. Listen, it's only $3 or $5. $3 or $5, not $35. If you want to give me $35, I'll take it. But $3 or $5 per month. Either way, I hope you hit the thumbs up and drop a comment. Let's get in here. Say hello real quick to a few people, and then I'm going to get out of here. Trey Baker. How do you feel about Ben Boulware joining the staff? I absolutely loved him as a player and love him as a person, but time and time again, that means nothing when it comes to coaching. Hope I'm wrong. Trey Baker, I want to tell you, I love this question because I had a family member send me a screenshot of the announcement that Boulware is joining the coaching staff in some form. Okay? I know exactly what you mean here, Trey. And it's the sentiment that a lot of us share. Yes, Jeff Scott and Tony were former Clemson players. And together, they worked quite well together. They did incredible things, okay? Well, let's never take away what Elliott and Scott did together. Elliott and Scott pulled apart. And I know everybody's going to tell me, well, Scott never called the first place. Folks, I don't care what he did. When those two were separated, did Clemson, even with Trevor Lawrence and ETN, look as dominant? The correct answer is no. You can live in la-la land and say yes, but you're wrong. And history has proven that true. But we all know that there's a bunch of people who have been hired in some capacity on the Clemson team, whether it's paid or unpaid. They've been brought in, and they have no business coaching at Clemson. Nick Eason's a former player. The man can coach. He's a former Clemson player who can absolutely, proven outside of Clemson, South Carolina, who can coach. And that is the only reason that any person should be on the coaching staff in any capacity. Because Clemson is Clemson. Now, with that said, I have high hopes for Ben Boulware. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, okay, I won't say high hopes. I actually don't feel too bad about this. I could be wrong. But Boulware openly criticized this past year's team. And he was not being a jerk. He was being, wait for it, this is going to be shocking, honest. You want to fix a problem? You get me the most honest person in here. We'll get to the root of the issue, and then we can start working on the solution. And last year, he said in public that when Coach Swinney said, oh, this team reminds me a lot of our 2016 team, what did Ben Boulware say? We would wipe our 2016 team would wipe our butts with this team. Think about that. While everybody else is standing over here in the Dabo Swinney is our former head coach. We love him. We'll never say a word against him. Won't criticize him. Don't know. And in fact, we're hoping that if we're just good enough, we can get a high-paying job on the coaching staff, whether we can coach or not. They're all over there, just got their fingers crossed, won't say a word. Everything Ben Boulware says otherwise. Folks, maybe we have some hope there. I could be wrong, Trey. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. Let's see. Still Gamble. Joe Milton is Tennessee's DJU. It was not good. It was not good. Let's see. Mike Matthews was a huge miss at receiver for Clemson. Yeah. Let's go on through here. I'm going on up here to see some of the questions, comments, seeing if anything bounce hair. Martin, this is I've seen this one a little bit, Martin. People only fuss about bubble screens when they don't work, but when they work, they shut up and cheer. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. I don't care if a team lines up and runs I formation the entire game as long as it works. I do agree with that. I think where a lot of Clemson fans are in a place of the quick pass out into the flats or, a quick screen out to the right or this, that, and the other is because when that is the vast majority of your passing plays, and it's, I won't say vast majority, it just seems like some coaches become lazy. They're like, hey, I have the numbers, I have this, I have the statistics. It says if I can get my playmaker out in the open, he stands a greater chance of getting loose. And this is true. This is 100% true. Here's the problem: can your receivers out there block out on the edge? And who are you playing against too? Because if you're playing against a really good defense, they've seen the film. They know it's coming. And if you keep running it and you never stretch the field, I'm going to walk my safeties up. We might beat you over the top. You'd have to throw it over the top for you to beat me over the top. And so I feel like a lot of people, Martin, I agree with you 100%. If it works, keep doing it. Clemson should have kept running Phil Maffa against Tennessee. Clemson should have kept running Lynn J. Dixon outside against Georgia in 2021. Clemson should have kept running the football against South Carolina in 2022. Did we? The correct response is no. I agree with you. If it's working, do it. If it's not, stop. Try something else. And I think that what Clemson fans, especially over the past 3 years, the past 3 seasons especially, what Clemson has seen is a lack of vertical attack. Well, we can't block, we can't do... Okay, then we have bigger issues. We can't block long enough. We don't have the receiver. We have bigger issues. There's a portal you can use to go get guys. Keon Coleman didn't need an ounce of development last year for Florida State. By the way, folks, he's the one who caught the game-winning touchdown against. Just caught 3 touchdowns against LSU. He set out the bowl game. Okay. Jeremiah Trotter and Nate Wiggins, we love them. They set out the bowl game. Nobody's hating on them, are they? Nobody's saying they gave up on their team. I'm not. I mean, we might have a, right foot and left foot, but it's the shoe size, unless you have some weird something going on. God help you if you do. I'm not making fun of you. I mean, it's a 10.5 on one. It's probably a 10.5 on the other. Shoe will fit, my friend. Just in different directions. But just saying, I mean, nobody's hating on them. They'll hate on Keon Coleman. What am I trying to say? Clemson, if Clemson needs to go to the portal and get some players, they're going to have to do it. That's not Dabo's way. Okay, well then we've got to hire the best offensive coaches, the best defensive coaches. We're not, well, so-and-so's happy with the coaches that we have. Then I think you have your answer. And Martin, I agree with you 100%. People only fuss about bubble screens when they don't work. You're 100%. When they work, they shut up and cheer. 100%. You're correct. They're not working. They're not working. And I think that a lot of people, including myself, we're tired. We're tired of seeing the same old, and then being lectured on why we should be thankful when there's a lack of creativity. So, all right, folks, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad you're here. There's 64 of you in here. It's the end of the weekend, right? It's Saturday. For some of you, you've worked all weekend. Your weekend begins at another time. I hope you will subscribe. I'm glad you're here. We are less than 3 weeks away from week 0, Florida State and Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland, and a few obscure games. And then less than 4 weeks away from Clemson and Georgia in Atlanta, 12 o'clock. I believe it's on ABC. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I just hope that you're hold on one second. I just seen some good. Rob Spence really did a number on Clemson fans with bubble screens. You're right, P Digits. I was at the Virginia Tech game many years ago. I want to say Tyrod Taylor was playing quarterback for Virginia Tech. I'll tell you how long ago it was when Rob Spence had a quick screen pass thrown out to the right to Ty Hill. And I thought Ty Hill got hit so hard because they knew the bubble screen was coming. The screen was coming out in the flats. Virginia Tech knew, Bud Foster, they knew it. They knew it was coming. So much that by the time the ball got to Ty Hill, I think it was Ty Hill, Virginia Tech's corner hit him so hard, I thought Ty Hill was dead. Like he didn't move, like his body, it would look like me tackling a toddler. He was just laid out there, and I went, Rob Spence got the man killed. By the way, when your coaching becomes so predictable that you're getting players hurt, you should feel bad. And I'm not saying Rob Spence is a terrible person, but I will tell you, when you are calling predictable plays and it's hanging your players out to dry, you should feel bad if they get hurt because it is on you. And you should go look at your paycheck and go, did I deserve that this week? If I was in any other profession, would I keep getting a paycheck, especially when they get paid massive money? These coaches. And by the way, again, totally fine if they make a lot of money, as long as they earn it. Because I know if I don't produce in my job, they fire me. And there's no appreciation for the past. There's complete and total expectation. So, yes, P Digits, they knocked Ty Hill H off. Yeah. That's funny. Folks, you take care of yourself. Hope you'll subscribe and drop a line, say hello. Take care as always. Go Tigers.